getting our
we
wings
might say.
today. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about today's guest, our friend Kyle. Why don't you talk a little bit about him, Berto? Give a little intro.
So for our guest today, it's a good friend of ours, Kyle Zuss. We actually graduated with him from Cal Poly about 10 years ago now, or over 10 years ago, as aerospace engineers. And he went off to bigger and greater things and is now a C-130 pilot. He flies for the National Guard, and he talks all about it.
Berto, why don't you get started? You want to introduce Kyle?
So for all of you, for the millions of listeners that we have right now.
2 million.
Yeah.
2 million.
We're coming up on 3, pretty quick. So
3.
By next week. So Fernando, Kyle, and we all actually graduated from Cal Poly Pomona back in 2009-ish, approximately, from the same discipline. Fernando and we stayed, in the engineering field, but Kyle went on to become a pilot. He currently flies a C-130 for the National Guard. So he's here to tell us about that. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. Cheers to a nice little whiskey. So basically, you kind of covered it. We went to school together, graduated in 2009 with an engineering degree. To kind of back up a little bit, to kind of tell you my background, kind of what got me started in aviation. Basically, since I was 4 years old, grew up next to March Air Force Base. So I used to see the planes fly overhead all the time. Used to sneak on the roof all the time, watch all the planes. And so basically, since I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a pilot. So basically, my mom kind of fueled that flame when I was about 10 years old, got me into something called the Commemorative Air Force, which is a nonprofit organization to restore World War II airplanes, like a flying history museum. So around 10 or 11, I think I started getting involved in that. So basically, volunteering for them, taking out trash, cleaning the airplanes, going air show to sell toys to raise money for them to refurbish airplanes. Eventually, they started taking me up in these World War II airplanes, and I got a lot of really cool experiences. By the age of, maybe 12 or 13, really started flying in these World War II planes. The original T-6, P-51s, got to travel the country in a B-17 all around the East Coast. That was when I was 15. That was one of the first planes I flew, which was a B-17, B-25s, just really started getting into that. What kind of got me into aerospace engineering was a little sibling rivalry. My sister was an electrical engineer, brother's a mechanical engineer. I was like, well, what's harder than that? Or in my head, that's what I thought. And then in the Commemorative Air Force, there were a lot of astronauts, former astronauts, retired, that were into it. And they're like, oh, I'm an aerospace engineer. So I thought at that age that I had to be an aerospace engineer to become a pilot, which ended up being wrong. But definitely helped my career. A lot of people I fly with actually have like history majors or the underwater basket weaving type stuff. Just so they could go learn how to fly. So that kind of set my path up. Started, I was flipping burgers, working at the community or going to community college, then got transferred over to Cal Poly where I met you guys, and ended up graduating in 2009. In 2009, I took a job working on the F-18 program, the fleet support team for the F-18, and I've been with them ever since. So a couple years in, I started applying for the Air National Guard for a pilot slot. Was applying for some Air Force Reserve slots. Got hired pretty quickly. My package was pretty strong with some of the flying background that I had and the aerospace engineering degree, which made me a pretty strong candidate. So I got hired with the Reno Air National Guard in 2011. Waited a few years, background clearances, that type of stuff. 2013, I went to officer school, and then basically that started my whole transition to the flying career. I was active duty for 3 years while you go to pilot training. Got out, got my wings in 2014, learned how to fly the C-130 in 2014, and then in 2015 got back. When I was done with training, I just basically went back to my civilian job, and then they say 1 week in a month, the weekend warrior, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, which is total BS. It's more like 6 months a year, a lot of weekends, but it is a lot of fun. So now In 2015, I went back to my job, and now I've kind of been juggling both jobs, so you get really good at time management. So kind of carrying on through both those careers, they both have been very complementary, and so they've definitely both helped each other. I work in aircraft systems on the F-18, project manager, and they've just kind of both helped each other to promote in each facet of each career. So now I'm a C-130 instructor pilot, an evaluator pilot, and I'm a project manager on the F-18 program. So I've been kind of juggling those two. Living in San Diego, I live full time. At least that's what I want to say. Normally 2-3 weeks a month. Then about a week to 2 weeks a month, depending on, it's got to ebb and flow, but kind of switch back and forth. So it's constantly do this, do that, do that. And it's a kind of try to make both jobs happy. So I've been doing that for 6 years now. But yeah, now I'm an instructor pilot and a project manager, kind of juggling both jobs, which it's a lot of fun. Get to fly on aircraft carriers for my civilian job and do some really cool stuff, hands-on with the F-18, building a lot of systems to help them, and then I get to go fly, military aircraft. So it's a cool gig. I enjoy it. I love it. So that's kind of like my background, and then I know you guys have some questions, that type of stuff.
So we'll break this down. So you pretty much told us everything. Yeah, interview's over.
No, you interviewed yourself, my friend.
Talk to you later.
What I'll do, that's kind of like my background. So
Yeah.
What I'll do is, kind of tell you kind of all the startup stuff.
Yeah.
And I can go a little bit more in depth on
what
what got me into it.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and ask you some questions, and I think that will probably bring some details. But so obviously you're a pilot. So how long have you been a pilot? I guess that's the first question we wanted to ask you.
So the first flight I had, I think I was 11 years old. It was in a Cessna 152. I want to say I was 11 or 12 years old. That was the first hour I got, and just kind of kept flying. Got my pilot's license when I was late teens. Didn't really care about logging any of my hours, because I knew that I wanted to be a military pilot. At least that was in my head. So that's when I started flying. It wasn't until I was about 23 when I started actually applying for the Air Force stuff. And actually really like getting into flying, where I got all my actual ratings, my multi-engine, my commercial, my instrument, all the other ratings that come along with that. So, yeah.
So at what age did you, so one thing I remember about you, Kyle, is you're probably one of the smartest guys I know.
Hot dog, baby.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
I'm going to disagree respectfully, but
no, you really are. Everything just sticks. So at what age did you tell yourself, what, I can do this. I can be a military pilot, or I can, go after this dream. You just mentioned that you went out for your first flight at 11, and a few years later you said, yeah, I can do it.
Honestly, I didn't think I was going to be doing both jobs. I knew I wanted to be a military pilot. I remember chatting with you guys in college about it. You're like, everyone was so concerned about getting an aerospace engineering degree. And I was like, I'm just going to join the military. I honestly didn't think that I was going to be doing both jobs. In fact, when I thought I left my civilian job, I put it on hold when that was in 2013. I said, hey, I'm going to pilot training. I'm going to keep this as a backup. I honestly thought I was going to go full-time at the Air National Guard, and then bye-bye civilian job, and I'm going to be a full-time pilot. But what I found in the time between I got hired at the Air National Guard and when I actually left, which was about 2.5 years, my career at my civilian job really took off. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do both. And so at the end of going through all the pilot training stuff, I went back to my civilian job. I don't know if that answered your question, but I knew I could do it. I knew I always wanted to do it. I knew I could fly. I knew I had the stick and rudder skills. I had a background in engineering. I was definitely nervous going to Air Force pilot training, because I was like, I'm going up just like the Top Gun type stuff. You're like, I'm going up against the best of the best. And then
going up against like, Tom Cruise?
Yeah, you think you're going up against the best of the best. And I was nervous. I was super nervous. Then you get to pilot training, and it's not all aerospace engineers. It's, a lot of people have scientific backgrounds. Some of them, maybe 20%, but most of them are just, normal folks.
Like farm boys or something.
But yeah, a lot of them were from middle America, exactly. Country boot folks. But answer your question, I knew I could do it. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I just kind of went after it and got it. I didn't want to go full active duty to do it.
Okay.
And I found out about the Air National Guard when I was 13. This lady by the name of Terry Torres, who's in the same commemorative Air Force, she's like, she got hired to be a pilot. I was like, oh, did you go to the Air Force Academy? She's like, no. I was like, well, you got an aerospace engineering degree? She's like, no. I got a history degree. I was like, what? Like, oh, shit. So at 13, and then she came back and flew to one of the air shows I was helping out at in a C-130. 3 years later, I saw her. I was like, no way. And she's like, yeah, I'm done with pilot training. I'm like, what? So
yeah, go ahead.
She was actually what kind of set my path to go to the Air National Guard, because I was like, okay, I can have a normal life, and then fly, and then go fly. And that's what kind of most people think, like you have to go to an Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy. You have to go full active duty to go do this. And in reality, that's wrong. You could do it part-time and have somewhat of a normal life. And I kind of strayed away from your question, but
no, that's good. So you mentioned being at an air show. So you've probably been to dozens and dozens of air shows.
Yeah.
Even now.
Have you flown in an air show?
What was that?
Sorry, have you flown actually in an air show?
Oh yeah. We there's a certification process you have to do to perform in air shows, because you're performing against like home crowds and people get nervous. But so you have to get signed off for it. But I've flown in plenty of air shows. We've done a lot of flyovers. We do flyovers all the time for the University of Nevada, Reno games, UNR games. I've done flyovers for funerals, just a bunch of everything. But yeah, I've flown in a bunch of air shows. They do a request. People can put in requests for us to go, and then basically we can say yes, we can support, because it's good PR, and that's how a lot of people find out about us. That's how I found out about it. I mean, I was on the air show circuit for 5 years. I mean, I would travel all over the country going to these air shows, just selling toys, meeting different pilots, and just seeing what airplanes I wanted to fly. And when I met Terry Torres when I was like 12 or 13, and she came back in the C-130, I was like, oh man, that plane's rad. So that's what kind of set me up on my path to do the Air National Guard, was actually hanging around air shows, cleaning up trash, wiping down the airplanes, doing all that fancy stuff. And then they're like, hey, we got an extra seat in a P-51. You want to go fly? And you're like, as a 13, 14, as a 13 or 14-year-old kid, you're like, yeah.
There's a bear shit in the woods, right?
Yeah, right. And it was actually one of the first engines I shut down was in a B-17. They're like, hey, get that kid up here. And I was sitting there in the bombardier seat. I came up. He's like, you know how to fly? And I was like, I was 15. And I'm like, yeah, I know how to fly. And just kind of flying around. And one of the chip lights came on. And he's like, we got a bag number 1. And he's like, shut it down. And he let me shut the engine down. That's the first engine I ever shut down was a B-17, which is pretty cool. So, but what all that got me all started was the air show circuits, going around selling toys and shooting the shit and going to the after parties as like a young kid, and just sitting there asking questions and just doing whatever I could to help out. And that was the commemorative Air Force. That completely changed my life.
And so would you say that after obviously going to all these many air shows, when you see a fighter, an F-16, or does it still give you the same feeling that you got back when you were 11 years old?
There's some saying, I forget what it is, but every time I see a plane, I live right underneath the flight path for San Diego, and it doesn't matter if it's an Airbus or some Boeing. I look up, oh, what is that? Oh, FedEx, right on time, right on time. And you always look up to the sky,
Yeah.
We were in Jordan doing some combat support type stuff, and Jordan's launching these F-16s. It's bam, bam, bam. They're launching 20 F-16s to go do work in Syria or whatever they were going to do, and you're just looking at them like, yeah,
America.
You're flying into some cool spots, and you're seeing MiG-29s, and you're seeing all these really cool airplanes, and you're like, oh man, I've never seen that. Or a Hind taking off at a Taji airfield or Baghdad in Iraq, and you're like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I've never seen a Hind. Or you're constantly always looking at airplanes. You're like, this is really, really sad. But every time I see an airplane like take off, even if it's like Southwest, I'm like, I always think it's just going to blow up in midair. I look at it, I'm like, what the fuck is that thing doing? I was like, planes still drive. I look at it, I'm like, and I understand the aerodynamics of it. I still look at it, I'm like, that shouldn't be flying. Why is that thing flying? I understand lift, I understand the lift, and I understand all that stuff, but I look at it, I'm like, dude, that shouldn't be flying. That should explode in midair. Like, I still look at it like that. And then when I'm flying it, I'm like, well, I hope it doesn't do that. But, yeah, I still look up at the skies and every airplane. If I hear a plane, I'm looking up. And I think, you know, that's from being younger. It was one of those childhood dreams that just never went away. Same thing as like being a fireman or, you know, a cop, you know, the things that stick, or an engineer. Like, you guys have always loved airplanes.
You know,
I see a rocket in your background.
Oh yeah. No, you know what? People always ask me like, "Oh, why do you want to go back to an air show? Didn't you go to one last year?"
You already went once, right?
Yeah, dude, I fucking love it, dude. Like, it's the best. You just like the feel of like the thrust, you know, like the
just the sound of the engines.
Yeah, the sound of the engines. It's just like
I will say, like, air shows have like kind of like a lot, like one of my real good buddies, he's F-22 Raptor pilot. So like I'll go do like red flag exercises. I'm just a C-130 pilot, so if any fighter person, you know, is watching this at some point, he's like, what a loser. But you know, you go to like Nellis, which is the, you know, fighter capital of the world now, and you're like just seeing these F-35s take off, and I'll be on a carrier and these F-18s are taking off. Like, my life is an air show. So I haven't been to air shows in quite a while. I go to the Reno air races every year because we perform in them. We do like airdrop and stuff like that. I kind of stopped going to air shows as much as I used to because my life has kind of become an air show. But,
you know, one of the things that I remember, probably the best air show that I've been to was in Edwards Air Force Base. And the only reason is because they do the sonic boom like at the beginning of the show. Yeah. And then all you just hear is like all these car alarms go off.
That's the sound of America, my good man.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Nothing tops the 4 fans of freedom, is what we call it. The C-130, the 4 fans of freedom. We might not be putting car alarms off and stuff like that, but God bless America.
Is that the plane you wanted to fly, or I guess if you had a choice, what would you?
Yeah, it was that. I was looking at like the C-17 and the KC-135. I had a strong enough package, I think, to go get hired with fighters. A guy that I worked with on the F-18s. He got hired to go fly F-15s, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I'll get you an interview." And so I got interviews for the fighter stuff. Something about taking a poop in an airplane and, you know, making coffee. I'm just a chatty cat. Not having someone next to me, I get it, the whole wingman thing, but I like shooting the shit. I like traveling with my buddies. And that's exactly what a C-130 is. You're traveling, especially in the guard unit. It's not like active duty. So every 4 years, we don't leave. You're there for basically your whole career. So we're very particular on who we hire, because you want to be a bro or a girl in an airplane, and you want to, even the girls, you want them to be bros. You know, like, hey, like let's go have fun. Let's work hard. Let's work an 18-hour day, and then let's go drink some.
Let's have a few beers.
Yeah.
You're gonna sit in a tent with these people, so it's a pretty stringent.
So Kyle, you've flown fighters and you've flown the C-130. What's the difference?
I've flown in fighters.
Okay. So what's the difference when you're in one, as like, I guess even on the passenger seat on a fighter?
Things just happen a lot faster. So normally the top of the class, if you go active duty, so we all go to the same spot. So I'll back up just a little bit. So when I get hired to be a C-130 pilot, I go to the same training that all these other guys go to that are active duty. We're all joined in. This is just on the Air Force side, but you have people from officer candidate school, you have people from the Air National Guard, you have people from the academy. You all go to one spot to go learn how to fly. And they have what's called a track program. So you all start out in the T6, the T6 Tecton 2, which is a turboprop. I don't want to say it's like 1,100 horsepower turboprop. And you start there, and they try to find out, you know, where your skills are at. As an Air National Guard pilot, you already know what track you're going. You know what you're going to fly at the end. But people that don't, well, say you got F-16 Air National Guard, you know that you're going to go T6s. After that, you're going to go T-38s, and then you're going to go fly F-16s. Me, I knew that I was going to fly a T6. You're going to learn all aerobatics, instrument flying. Then I'm going to go fly what's called a T1, which is basically a private jet. And then you go to the C-130. So it's this track selection process, and you're in it with active duty folks. I absolutely love the C-130. We do a lot of really cool stuff. We do the firefighting mission. We do deployments to the Middle East. Whether we're taking 20,000 pounds of muscle milk to the Army so they can get gas. Or we're taking bombs, missiles. We do airdrop, on-supply airdrop to SEALs, you name it. The C-130 is a really cool airplane. So I knew that's the plane that I wanted to fly. Plus, it's got a toilet.
Yeah.
And when you're flying back from the Philippines and you've been eating lumpia for a month, it's
that's a luxury.
It's a good thing to have. Those guys are shitting in diapers if you're a fighter pilot. Things just happen a lot faster in a fighter. You have to be on your game. They train a hell of a lot of time. So after I'm done with C-130s, they call it seasoning. So I'm on seasoning for like 4 months to learn how to be a real C-130 pilot in the real Air Force. And that's about 4 months. Seasoning for a fighter is about anywhere between 2 and 3 years. So their training is a lot more extensive. For every hour they go fly, it's a whole day of planning the day before, go fly an hour, and then debrief for up to a whole day the next day. In the C-130, we'll go plan for a few hours, we go fly for a few hours, and come back and we drink beers and we say, hey,
debrief.
Yeah, the old debrief. You say, hey, you fucked that up.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
Don't do it again. You almost killed me. We laugh about it. We have beers. In the fighter community, it's a totally different experience. They're studying in the vault, the secret vaults and that type of stuff. All the payloads they drop. It's just a totally different experience. And that's honestly not what I wanted. And if I was doing the fighter gig, I wouldn't be able to do the whole engineering and pilot thing. I would be strictly a fighter pilot until you get so seasoned that you're able to step away from the airplane a little bit more. I could step away from the C-130 for 3 weeks and be fine. 2 months, I'm still okay. It might be not the best, but you start to get, it's not like driving a car. If you don't fly, especially when you first get back, every week, it can be tough. Fighter stuff, I didn't want to do it. No thanks.
So you say you could walk away for 3 weeks and then come back and be okay. Is that because of muscle memory or why?
Yeah, it's experience. You've been in the plane. You have a bunch of experience. I mean, when I'm on deployment, that whole cockpit could fill with smoke, and I know exactly every single thing. That it's muscle memory. But when you step away from it, you're like, you know what everything does, but you're like, how do I change that from wind shear mode to weather mode? And you're just kind of clicking it, and you're like,
okay.
It worked. Or
So-
you forget stuff.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're like, holy smokes, I may not make it out of this,
Yeah.
as you're flying,
Yeah.
like,
I've had a
About
few
that
when
one.
I was-
like adverse
Yeah.
weather, or
Yeah, so I took off. We were on the way back from the deployment. We were taking off from Ireland, heading to St. John's. Was it Nova Scotia or Newfoundland? Doesn't matter. But the winds that were forecasted were so high that we weren't able to make it with our payload all the way across. So we didn't have the fuel to make it. So we ended up going down to the Azores off the coast of Portugal and then heading over to St. John's. And so we take off from St. John's. The weather report looked good, which is kind of tough to trust these weather reports, but yeah, everything looks good. Everything's by the book. You're taking off. The winds were about 120 knots in the face. Taking off, we crossed this thing called a equal time point, where it's the point of no return. You don't have enough fuel to get back. Now you only have enough fuel to get there. So as soon as we crossed the equal time point, we had severe icing. We hit a huge storm, severe icing. I mean, 2-3 inches of ice on the windshield. Our props are starting to just sling ice at the airplane. I mean, it's starting to get bad, and we're like, oh shit. So we turn on all the anti-ice heat, all that type of stuff that we have on the airplane. And one of the things we have is a windshield, which is basically a defrost, but it's these layers of heat in the windshield. So we turn it on, and I look at it, it's starting to spark, and I'm like, that's not good. And so in the book, it says to draw like an stencil, like or a grease pen around the crack, and like where it's like delaminating. And as he's doing it, he's just drawing. It just keeps cracking, and he's just drawing. I was like, "Stop drawing the thing!" And I said, "Turn it off." So he turns it off, and the whole windshield goes.
Wow.
Both normally just one layer breaks, but both layers broke. So like you might have an impending windshield break there. So at that point, got everyone on oxygen. We had 30 passengers in the back. Send it down below 10,000 feet into, you know, basically worse icing. Tried to get out. We tried our best to get out of the icing. We couldn't do it. Send down 10,000 feet. Gotta basically, we don't know if this thing's gonna pop. So we just kept going, declare an emergency over high frequency radio over the Atlantic. And I think it was New York radio. We're like, hey, New York radio emergency. They're like, hey, where are you heading? And we're like, normally you hit these points across the Atlantic, position reporting points, so they know like where you're at. And I was like, we're heading direct to St. John's right now. So we just cut off all this extra, because we didn't, now we're like worrying about fuel because now we're at 10,000 feet. We keep pressing and pressing. And over the radio, they're like, hey, weather's deteriorating at St. John's. It's known for bad weather. I don't know why we go there, but we fucking go there. So they're like, hey, it's getting worse. 10 minutes later, hey, it's getting worse. Hey, it's a blizzard. Everything else is a blizzard. All our divert fields are blizzards. So we're looking at it. We're looking at fuel. We're running out of fuel. We're at 10,000 feet, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And then we start having some engine malfunctions. I'm like, oh shit. So now we were looking at maybe shutting an engine down. We're like, fuck it, keep it. God's taking it. So we kept pressing, and sure enough, the weather was so bad. We had basically moderate, severe icing all the way in. We have no windshield to use anti-ice, so we can't really see anything. All we could see was out of the side windows, which, God bless, inshallah. We came into a blizzard that basically we landed like this, broke out at complete minimums into a completely snowed over field, and we only had one shot at it. Because we were burning fuel at 10,000 feet with even worse winds that we had originally calculated. So we had maybe one or two shots at getting the landing. We landed the damn thing sideways, and we could see out of the one window. We're all looking for it. We pop out of the clouds and basically landed sideways and on all three wheels, came around. And I did a full 180 in the airplane. And we had to do what's called a back taxi. They're like, okay, go ahead and back taxi to head back to where your parking spot. I was like, well, fuck, I'm already pointed that way. I'd done a 180 on the runway. Yeah. I couldn't keep it. I was using asymmetric thrust to kind of keep it straight, and it just didn't work. I mean, we were already landing sideways. I wasn't going around out of it. It was a one-stop shop. So we landed and shut down the engines, and I shook the other pilot's hand and said, drinks on me. And I was in the left seat. We had a brand new co-pilot on the right. I'm like, well, yeah, so we were stuck there for about a week. Yeah, that was one of the ones where your buttholes in your mouth. Yep. But you have a lot of those things, but I mean, you can train to it, but it was just that the weather was getting worse. Nothing was predicted from the weather, and the weather people at where we got our weather, they got an ass chewing for me because there was a way bigger storm. It was supposed to be clear in a million, like all the way there. And yeah, it was severe icing. I mean, just our edges of our wings were completely covered in 2-3 inches of ice. Our props were slamming ice against the side of the airplane.
So I guess you did a IFR, right? I guess that flight was an IFR.
Yeah. Well, the shittiest part was when we're flying into St. John's. You see how cold the water is. I'm not kidding you. There's like icebergs like floating, and you're like, is that a fucking iceberg? You're like, I think this is where the Titanic's on. We're dead. Yeah, we're dead. And then so the funny part is I was like, I'm gonna go check on the passengers. And so I go to the back, and people are shitting their brain. They're like shaking. And I'm like, go back, and I shook hands and kissed babies, and I was like, hey, we're okay. Even though I knew, I was like, oh fuck, man, if this window pops, you guys are gonna die. I'm just kidding. No, those were the ones, the pucker factors. You have a lot of those in the airplane. We do the firefighting stuff where we fly in the mountains, high altitude density, max gross weight, 5 knots. if not 5 knots above stall speed sometimes.
Wow.
And it's shady. And you have, fires creating their own storms and that type of stuff, creating their own winds. And yeah, you have to be like Johnny on the spot with all that stuff, especially if you flame out an engine and that type of stuff. I've run into some of that stuff. We have 4 engines, but at high altitude, max gross weight, it's pretty shady. But I've had quite a few of those. That one was probably the one where I was like, you have 3.5 hours to think about it. Over the Atlantic, you're like, oh shit. Normally, if you're in the United States, hey, I got an engine fire, I got to put this on the ground. You find there's 8,000 airports. When you're over the Atlantic or over the Pacific, you're on your own. And we can't punch out like those fighter boys can. We have 8 parachutes on the plane, but they're like 30-something passengers. And even if you did jump out, you'd be dead within a minute in that water. And you're like, and if you just have 3 hours to just kind of sit there, you're like, oh.
So you're telling me your sit cushion is not a floating device?
No, the seat cushion was inside of me at that point. I sucked it inside of me. Yeah, it was inside of me. Yeah.
So you mentioned,
I enjoyed it.
You mentioned you have your training. So, but at any point, did you say, you know what, I should probably say a prayer or something?
There was one taken off out of Syria where I was, I didn't feel so good. There was one doing the firefighting mission where if you fly through black smoke, like complete black smoke, it means there's no oxygen in it. Gray smoke is good. And I was just getting trained on the fires. And I asked the other pilot who hadn't been flying a lot, because he's a part-time guy just like me. And I said, hey man, I want you to climb up. He's like, no, we're good at this altitude. I was like, dude, I want you to climb up now or I'm gonna take the fucking airplane. And I looked at him, I was like, this death stare. So we're flying through the smoke, which you don't have to fly through smoke. You can go around it or go above it or at least fly at a healthy altitude. We were, 300-400 feet above any obstacle, but like if you lose an engine or decouple a prop or anything like that, I was like, there's no reason to. I was like, climb up. And he told me no. He was a full bird colonel. I said, if you don't climb up right now, I'm taking this airplane. I'm gonna do it myself. And as soon as we said that, the whole fucking windshield went black, which is not the smoke you want to see. And then I could see the orange from the flames and you could feel the heat in the cockpit and you could feel the heat on the glass. And I was like, you dumb motherfucker. Sorry. And so I was like, climb now. And so he climbs. We climb out of it, hit severe turbulence. The loadmaster got hurt in the back and he got thrown around, severe turbulence. And I'm like, you dumbass. That one where I was like, this is it. I'm in hell. It was just, you could see the flames from the fire. Just because I had asked him to do it and he made a bad decision. And on the ground, that's the beauty of a crew aircraft and you're debriefing over drinks. I said, you motherfucker. I was like, you could have killed the whole crew. And he's like, no, we were fine. I was like, no, you made me uncomfortable and you hurt the guy in the back. And that was one of them where I was like, I don't know. I thought I was dying. And I was like, well, but then you get more comfortable, like, I do it again. You're like, maybe I wasn't dying.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you get more comfortable and you get more comfortable. And I was newer doing it too. But you have some times where you're praising the Lord.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Oh, Lord.
I got to ask you, what's your handle? What's your call sign?
I got a few of them. So in pilot training, there was a instructor pilot. He's a big black guy. He was maybe 6'3", fucking great dude. So he, what was his name? We called him Leroy Jenkins. He's flying F-16s now. He's what's called a FAPE, a first assignment instructor pilot. So right out of training, he whatchamacallit, you end up coming back as an instructor to teach the T6 or the T1 or the T38. And he was a funny guy, but he had it out for me, but he was like hard on me. He was a good dude. And someone farted next to his desk. And he said, who farted? I want to fucking know right now. And I was like looking around. I'm on the other side of the room and I'm like, dude, he's pissed. Someone farted out in front of him, right? And so no one's owning up to this fart. And then like he stands up and he's a big guy. And I was like, oh shit. And he's like, who farted? I was like, sir, it was me. And he's like, God damn it. I just got chills. I was laughing. Damn it. Did you just crop zust me? And I'm like, I start dying laughing. And then he starts laughing. And him and I still, kept in contact to this day. He named me crop zust because with a crop dust. Someone crop dusted his desk, and he was so pissed. But you know, him and I became like good friends afterwards. We were friends during that too. But yeah, so he called me crop dust, and that stuck for a while. So a lot of my friends would call me crop. And then when I got back to my unit, normally you don't get call signs in training. You get them when you get back to the unit for doing something stupid. I called in sick one time when it was a drill weekend, and I called in sick, and my boss was like, "No, you need to come in. You need to come in." I was like, "Dude, I flew all the way up to Reno on Southwest. I'm not trying to miss tomorrow." I was new. I was like, "I'm hurting bad." And he's like, "You got to show up. I'll let you sleep until 9." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." So I show up, and I was like, "You think coronavirus is bad?" Whatever I passed to this unit, so I show up, everyone's like, "You look bad." I'm like, I was like walking down the hallway, it's just like grabbing myself, and they're like, "Dude, you look awful." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Go home." So they send me home. Well, I got the whole unit sick, so sick, and it was like a week. It was December drill, so a week before Christmas vacation. So everyone got sick. I ruined everyone's Christmas vacation. My boss got the shingles from it.
Oh my gosh.
So he calls me and he's motherfucking me the whole time. And I was like, "Hey, well, you should change your sick leave policy," because I called in sick. And he's like, "Who denied it?" And I said, "Colonel Little." And he's like, "Oh, yeah. And he's like, "From here on out, if you call in sick, we won't ask any questions." I said, "Finally." So they named me Virus. And they
that's great.
So they tried to make it stand for something that's like void of intellect and reason, unusually stupid or something like that. That one didn't really stick that much, but yeah, I think that one's from the unit. People call me everything from Zustmeister to, they can't pronounce my last name, I guess, for some reason, but it's either Virus or Crop. Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm sure I'll think of another one.
And so Kyle, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between getting a pilot license, but a military versus like a civilian, or I guess commercial aircraft pilot license?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, both routes usually end up at the airlines. So you can either go, the civilian side, or you can go the military side. Both have their challenges. So the military side, the one thing that's nice is that they pay for everything. So by the time you start pilot training, you go through officer training, you do all that stuff, and you finally get back to your home station, wherever it may be. I think they say it's about $6 million in training. That's just to get your wings and get all the way back to training. So each person is about $6 million, somewhere around that. And then you actually start flying and, actually learning how to fly the airplane. So that number is way higher than that. Excuse me. In the civilian side, I'll go back to the military side. So at the end of your first year of pilot training, you can go take a test with the FAA and you get your pilot's license, your multi-engine, your commercial, and your instrument rating, which is pretty expensive to do in the civilian side. And that takes about a year to get in the military. And that's flying 2-3 times a week, high stress, lots of academics. That takes, in the Air Force, it takes about 13. I think they just decreased it to about 11 months. But it's still very expensive. On the civilian side, you start with a pilot's license, then you go get your multi-engine, then you get your commercial, you get your pilot's license, then you get your instrument, then you'll get your multi-engine, and then you'll get your commercial. And it just gets very expensive. So what most of these guys do is they get to instructor, CFI is what they call it, or CFII if they're gonna teach instruments. And then they go to the local airport and they get all their hours teaching, young kids or people that just want to go get pilot's license. And that's how they build their hours, single engine or maybe multi-engine piston. And then when they get about 750 hours, then they go apply for the regionals. And then, so the regionals hire them, they get their turbojet time. And then a couple years, maybe even a little bit more at the regionals, then they'll go to the big wigs, which is like Delta, Southwest, FedEx, that type of stuff. The thing with the military route is they're paying a lot of money, and I'm not going to say you're going to get better training, but you're going to get better training. It's more in depth. It's higher stress. I mean, it's the reason why the airlines love hiring like military guys. The civilian side also offers a lot of good stuff too. But at the end, once you get your wings, you owe 10 years in the military. if you go the civilian route, you're going to end up spending a couple $100,000. My guess, $150,000 to $200,000 to get all these ratings. And then what a lot of these guys do is they go to like Embry-Riddle, go get a degree somewhere there in like aviation, and then they learn how to fly that way. So you can go to colleges that offer that experience. And then you end up being like $150,000, $200,000 in debt, which, I mean, it is what it is. And then they start paying it off with going and flying and teaching other people how to do it until they get those hours and they get that experience. And then basically when you are applying for the airlines, they want to see, 500 to 1,000 pilot and command time of jet aircraft and a total time of, anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 hours. A lot of my buddies that fly C-17s, $80,000 an hour. I mean, you can't get that in the civilian side. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people in the airlines, a lot of them are military because it's expensive to go the other way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to mention. So maybe like 2 years ago, I did ground school and then realized how expensive it would be to just have this as a hobby and just completely dropped it. I didn't even think twice.
I would say go get your pilot's license. I'd say follow through with it. It's gonna cost you, if you actually devote time to it, you could go get your basic pilot's license in under a month. But no one wants to do that. No one wants to take a month of leave and go do something like that. Out of 600 engineers that I work with, maybe only about 5 or 10 have it. I'm the only military pilot in the whole place. It's super rewarding. It's a lot of fun. But, it takes these guys 2-3 years to go get their license. And you're like, dude, you can go do it in a month. Just take some time off, take out a loan. It'll cost you probably $6,000, $7,000 to go do it because it opens up a whole new world. Hey, you want to go get what's called a $100 cheeseburger. You're going to go fly to Catalina, go get a bison burger, and then fly that. It opens up a world that most people don't really understand. You fly to Santa Barbara, you radio 30 minutes out to the flight base of operations where all the private jets and private airplanes park. You radio out 30 minutes out. Hey, I need fuel and a rental car, and you do all that planning beforehand. They're like, Roger that. And so you land, rental car comes up, they load the bags for you, and you're on your way. Gone. There's no TSA. There's no security. There's none of that stuff. You can go fly into the middle of a dirt field and go land somewhere like Burning Man or whatever you want to do.
I guess it's a chick magnet, huh?
All right, Fernando, let's take a month off and let's go get our
let's do it.
I would say just go do it. I mean, most people don't want to take that leap and don't do it. But when they finish it, they're like, because I push a lot of people to do it. I mean, I have these conversations with tons of people at my civilian job, and no one ever follows through with it. How do I become a military pilot? It sounds so cool, but then they realize how much work it's long days and long nights. But when you're done with it, it's cool. Like I just got the keys to the airplane last week. They said, hey, take the C-130 anywhere you want. I said, okay. And we're on an alert mission, so we're on call from 9 to 5. It's called a weekly dedicated. So they say, hey, take the plane anywhere you want. So I'm the aircraft commander. I say, okay. So I ask some of the people on the crew, like, hey, where do you want to go? And they're like, I want to go to Toledo to visit my parents. I said, we're going to fucking South Beach, Miami, and I don't want to hear another word out of you. And I said, I take that as an option for consideration. If we have to divert, we'll go to Toledo, Ohio. But no.
Toledo.
So
in the middle of winter.
Flew to Austin, spent a night there. Flew a plane down to South Beach, Miami. Parked at Miami the Executive, where all the rich people park. Had rental cars pulled up to the airplane, and we sat on alert for 4 or 5 days there, just waiting. Never got the call because a lot of people aren't really doing a lot of operations right now. But say a plane broke on the road, I would have to go fly a part to them, or inauguration stuff. I'd have to go fly a presidential limo somewhere. So you're on alert. So they have planes around the country that are on alert.
Have you ever been nearby Air Force One?
Oh yeah, I got in trouble about was it November? Yeah, so we got back from land survival, which was out in the woods up in northern Nevada, and we get back. And land survival for the Air Force, we were just drinking the whole time. I think we catered barbecue. It's not like the Marines. So we get back and there's no one on base. We're like, where the hell is everybody? So we get back to our squadron, which is on the flight line, and we're sitting there and we're like, oh shit, I think, President Trump's coming in here. Oh wait, he's landing in like 20 minutes. Might as well keep drinking some beer. So we're drinking beer in the squadron, and the Secret Service walks into the squadron, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "I got like mud all over my face from like land survival, and I'm intoxicated heavily." And they're like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, we just got back from land survival. We didn't get the memo." And they're like, so he was still an Air Force pilot, but he was on a detachment doing Secret Service stuff. And I said, "Hey, any chance you could take us out to the airplane?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm an Air Force pilot." I was like, "Sweet." So he takes us out to the airplane. No mask, no nothing. It's me and a couple of my buddies. We take a picture in front of Air Force One right after Trump landed and was right by us. And we went on to our own flight line because that's where he parked. And the news stations all have video of us with our arms around each other taking a picture in front of Air Force One with no masks on. And the governor found out about me and like 3 other people. So they're like, "Who is that?" And they're like, "I think that's Zust."
So it's virus.
It's virus. And so yeah, I got right up next to it. We've done presidential like airlift stuff, or I've taken the limo, some Suburbans, that type of stuff around, which is pretty cool. I mean, they haven't let me in the Air Force One, which sons of bitches.
But one day.
So I guess another question, it's not really related to that, but have you ever seen an unidentified foreign object in the air?
No, but I sure as shit believe in them. No, I haven't. You see like weird stuff, like when it's like real dark out there and like you're flying over one of the things we do is like when we're going to the Pacific, we turn all the lights off the airplane, and you can just see stars like it's absolutely beautiful. And I believe that there is something out there. You've heard about the story of the F-18 pilots that that saw that, and it's pretty crazy. I have not seen one myself.
Okay, well, it was worth asking. And then the other question is, so knowing that pilots always want to have the precise time, what type of watch do you have?
Got a Breitling, baby.
Oh yeah.
I didn't mean to wear that.
I didn't wear mine today. I have a Breitling too. I have the Aerospace.
Yeah,
nothing fancy.
This is a Colt. But yeah, I bought that in London on the way back from the deployment.
Oh, sweet.
You mentioned earlier you landed on carriers. What did you land with? What was the plane?
I landed on the C2. So the one cool thing about my civilian job is we do fleet support. So we had physiological events going on in the F-18 where pilots were getting sick and they didn't really know what was going on. So I remember going in on a Tuesday a couple years ago, and my boss calls me in the office and said, "Hey, I need you to go pack your bags." And I was like, "What? For what?" And he's like, "I need you on a carrier in the Mediterranean tonight." I'm like, Tonight? And I was like, "It's going to take me like 3 days to get there." And he's like, "Yeah, we need you on it tonight." I'm like, "I need you to go talk to these pilots, calm them down. They don't trust the airplane." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because it's making them sick." So he's like, "Can you go pack your bags?" I said, "Yep." Called my guard unit, said, "Hey, I'm going out of town. I'm deploying for my civilian job." And they're like, "Yep, whatever support you need." So I'm a firm believer in mentoring and like taking care of the young folks. So I said, I'll go under one condition. I can take a brand new person and show them the ropes. And so this was my like 3rd or 4th time on the carrier. So that day, literally went home, grabbed my stuff. They had a flight booked for me from LAX, San Diego to London, London to Athens, Athens to Sudetenland, Crete. They were going to pick me up in a C2 and fly me onto the carrier. I looked at my travel itinerary. It said 48 hours. And I said, up. Not going to happen. So we get to the airport, and I was like, there's no way. I'm going to miss one of these flights. Sure enough, my first flight from San Diego to LA got canceled. It was like a 20-minute flight got canceled. So I called up the travel agency. I said, I need a 2-day layover in London. And they said, we can't approve that. I said, I didn't ask you to. I said, I'm doing it. So I got to London, spent 2 days there to kind of regroup, flew down to Athens to Sudetenland. And then the next morning, we took a C2 out of Sudetenland, Crete, and flew onto a carrier. I think we were just off the coast of Israel, somewhere over there. Landed there. I mean, I slept maybe 5 hours the whole time, land, and then you start, the captain of the boat came and greeted me, and we start chatting. And I mean, I was literally sitting there working on the airplane for a couple days. And, I've flown, I've had a lot of opportunities to do it, but I like some of the younger folks to do it. So basically, we went out there and talked to pilots off the ledge on why these guys were basically not having getting decompression sickness in the airplane. So when I told the captain, I said, "Hey, I can't solve your problem here. I need money. I need to build a lab." And he said, "How much does the lab cost?" And I said, "Well, Boeing wants $600 million." He said, "You're not going to get that." I said, "Give me $400,000. I'll do it as soon as I get home." He said, "You'll have $400,000 waiting for you to get home." So I came home, started building the lab, and I found out that it wasn't hypoxia, it was decompression sickness. So I built a lab in 3 or 4 months. Boeing wanted 3 years for it. I built it in about 3 or 4 months for $400,000, $599 million under budget. And I built it and found out that it wasn't hypoxia that was killing them, or not killing them. Well, some of them. It was decompression sickness, so fluctuation in the cabin.
Did you get a big bonus?
I did not. I did not.
You got the satisfaction of knowing you out-designed Boeing.
Yeah, that you
well,
you saved a lot
cool.
of tax money. So
I got a national AIAA award for it.
Okay. That's sweet.
Which was cool, and a lot of job offers from it, but I never took them up on it. But so yeah, that kind of tied in the civilian gig to it. But I knew how to talk to the military guys. Like I had the admiral, the flag on the carrier, and I'm sitting there chatting with them. And I was in the distinguished visitors quarters, so like I was treated like a king. And I was like, if they only knew I was low ranking in the Air Force. But I kept that quiet. But that's where I said kind of both of them help each other, because I could go talk to the air crew and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like, "Well, I got this." I'm like, "I know what's causing them, and it's decompression sickness." They all thought it was hypoxia, lack of oxygen. I said, "No, it's decompression sickness over time." And so I put a bunch of stuff in order, and our rates have gone down by like 50% in the F-18. If you look it up, their hypoxia was a big issue in the F-18, so it's gone down a lot. But yeah, what else you got?
So for our listeners interested in becoming a pilot of any kind, do you have any tips, suggestions, anything they should avoid or focus, or what should they focus on?
I would say go get your just your basic pilot's license. It's about 40 hours of flying. A lot of people just take forever to go do it. Just go do it. If it means taking out a loan, it's a big resume builder. Oh, you got your pilot's license? Boom. So two people have their aerospace engineering degrees. They both did well in the interview. The guy that has their pilot's license is going to get it. It's just one of those things. Or someone that's doing extracurricular type stuff. I would say just go get your pilot's license. See if you like it. A lot of people say, "I want to be a pilot. I'm born to be a pilot." They get hired to be a pilot. They show up to the Air Force, and they're puking their guts out, and they're absolutely miserable. They've flown very few hours in an airplane. Go fly around. See if you like it. See if it gives you the chills. It opens up a world that most people don't get to do. Land dwellers don't ever get to see. Go get your pilot's license. There's ways to do it pretty quick. Call a so you have to go get a class one physical, or maybe class 3. I'm not sure, but go get a medical. Go find an instructor pilot. Any local airport teaches it. Almost every single airport teaches how to fly. Go do it. Find the one you like. Find the instructor that you like. Find a group of flying. Like, you go rent the airplanes. Find ones that you feel comfortable flying with. An instructor that you really like, because a bad instructor is gonna ruin your experience. Find an instructor that you like flying with, even if it takes you. It's just like finding a doctor that you like. 4 or 5 doctors. You're like, "Oh, that guy sucks. That guy sucks. Oh, this guy's really cool. I feel comfortable going with him." It's the same thing. Finding a good instructor. Go through it. Get the 40 hours of flying. Go take your. It's a one test you got to go take. Study for it. Take it seriously and just get it done, because people take 3, 4, 5 years to get it done, and most of them quit. They don't go do it. They're like, "Oh, I go solo an airplane." So I think after a certain amount of flights, you can go solo an airplane, and then a lot of them quit after that. I would say just stick with it and just go do it. Go if you're going military or civilian, just go get your pilot's license. Either way, if you're applying for a military organization if you want to be a military pilot, they want to see that you have a pilot's license. They want to see that you give a crap about it and that you're not going to quit as soon as you get there. Because a lot of people fail out of pilot training. They go there, they realize that's not the life they want. They don't like flying. They don't like any of that stuff, And I'm not kidding. And they spend millions of dollars on them. So going in there with a military organization, you have your pilot's license. If you want to go fly, just go fly around and go see the sights. If you want to go fly, I could go fly to Mammoth tomorrow right now. I belong to a flying organization called Plus One Flyers. I've got 60 airplanes I can go rent. I just log on online. Yep, that plane's available for a week. I book it and I go fly.
What's the rate on that? Just for
I think the one I fly is like $95 wet, which means it comes with fuel. So every hour I fly it, it comes with fuel.
Not bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
like a 6-seater or something?
No, it's a 4-seater. You can fly the 6-seater airplanes. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you think about it, if you split it with 6 people,
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
no, by
Let me know next time you go to Mammoth. I'm there.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't snowboard, but I'll go with you guys.
you got it, brother.
And
I'd say-
the other thing is, what was that organization that you mentioned that you were
The
part of?
Commemorative Air Force.
Commemorative Air Force.
It's called the CAF, and it's there's one in Riverside, there's one here in San Diego at Gillespie. They're all over the place, and it's just a flying history museum that they want to preserve that history, and it's a pretty cool organization. Not only, like, you go join that organization, you'll find an instructor that will teach you probably for free. You'll find say you're broke, say you're a 16-year-old kid and you want to go learn how to fly, go to an organization like that. Go sweep the floors, go take out the trash, go volunteer. They throw parties all the time. Go help them plan dinner parties, type of stuff. And then they're like, hey, this kid gives a crap. They'll teach you how to fly for free. They'll pay. Most of those guys are like, this kid, they want kids to learn. And a lot of kids don't get involved in it. 98% of like any flying organization in the military is like white male dominated. We've seen even in our classes, like the technical fields of women are starting to kind of come along and starting to get involved. We go to women aviation conferences to try to hire women. We go to the black aviation conferences to do it. A lot of people I think are really timid to do it, but like if you're a minority, like I encourage you to do it. I'm not saying you're going to get hired early or anything like that, but we are looking for that type of stuff. Like any walk of life should come in, if interested in it at all, can come in and fly with us.
That's good to hear. What's the age limit? Like, let's say Fernando and I want to go and join the reserves.
So it was 30, but they have raised it because of the pilot shortage. I know March Air Force Base was hiring as high as 39.
Wow. Okay.
So if there's a will, there's a way. In the military, there's always a waiver. There's a waiver for everything.
Okay.
So if it's something you really want to do, they're going to ask you hard questions like, hey, why are you getting this so late in life? You have a kid that is super experienced in flying. He's been flying with his dad, since he was 12. He's had his pilot's license for 10 years already, applying for this stuff. He's got his degree, and then come in at a 33, 34, year old guy. And they're like, well, why you get into it now? Well, I love it. Some of them, it scares them a little bit because a lot when you get older, you get stuck in your ways, and it's kind of harder to break people down. It's less work, and then build them back up and make them learn to fly the way the military wants you to fly. Yes, sir, no, sir, at the beginning, and then you get to become the boss, and you're like, no, this is how I want you to learn. This is how we do things. And, so the older, it's harder to do, but I'm not saying it's impossible. The cutoff is 30, I believe. Might be 31 now.
All right, we'll see you in a couple years then. Once we get...
Hey, I hired you, boys.
How do we get a ride? Oh, I just want to go on a C-130.
Yeah.
Whiskey went down the wrong way.
Gotta know somebody.
We have a thing called the boss lift, where we take like local people that are like helping the community and our bosses mainly to say, hey, this is why we're leaving work, because we miss a lot of work. I miss 6 months a year minimum of work. So it's to say thank you to the bosses. So we take them flying, we open up the doors, we fly low level in formation over Lake Tahoe. We give them a full tour of the airplane, the squadron. We have drinks and food waiting for them, at the end. And, half of them are fucking puking their guts out because we don't have any, the C-130 doesn't have a ton of windows, but we cycle them up back and forth, we put them in the harness, let them wiggle their feet out the back. Over
nice.
It's pretty cool. So I could try to get you guys on that.
Yeah, I always I follow you on Instagram, and I always see you post videos of you flying over like
Berto, ask him the question.
What question?
A couple weeks ago, maybe actually like a month or two ago.
Do what happened?
Yeah.
We saw a screen cap that said we found Kyle. He's safe, or something like that. Stand by. Let me find it.
Yeah, find it. It might have been. So I have a loadmaster named Billy Jack, and we just banter back and forth. And he's a real fun. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, it was just you sitting on a table, probably holding a pen tool or something, and I guess this person took a picture of you and said, "We found Kyle."
Oh, it was. I was on the flight line and I was trying to get this guy Billy Jack to fly with me, and he was like working or doing something. He does his normal job at the squadron is counter drug, because we do counter drug mission as well. And I was like, "Hey, where's Billy Jack?" And then he posted it the next day. He was flying, and then I was I think I was like teaching someone, or I was doing mission planning. He's like, "I found him. He's safe." I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
Sorry, I found it. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah. That's,
I'm like, did we almost lose our buddy over here? What happened?
we need him to interview.
Yeah, after this, you're good.
Yeah.
No, we're kidding.
Yeah, but so this concludes the interview part, and we have another segment, which
we're not gonna do that, are we?
Yeah, no, we have to do it.
Okay.
So Kyle will tell you jokes and pickup lines, and then you'll give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. And then if you have any that are related to the theme, then you can also add them to the list. So
I just tell chicks that I'm a pilot and an aerospace engineer. These chubby cheeks. Still got it.
Dude, are you married, single?
No, single's a Pringle. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, most of my pilot buddies are like married with kids. Well, most of my friends are married with kids, but I get to travel the world. I'm still not done traveling, and I've got my fair share of girlfriends. Could have been boyfriends in the Philippines. I don't know.
So you're a good-looking guy, there, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I do my dabbling, my good man.
All right. So, you want to start, Berto, or should I start?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So the first joke is, why did an airplane get sent to its room? Because it had bad altitude.
Attitude.
Yeah, attitude could have been a better one actually. So
yeah.
Okay, so
I'd say attitude.
Attitude. Yeah, you're right.
Attitude is up and down.
Yeah.
All right. So who invented the first airplane that wouldn't fly?
Woman
brothers.
I'm just kidding. I was just kidding. That was bad. I'm gonna get kicked off this podcast.
All right. The next one is, how often do airplanes crash?
Only once.
Yeah. There you got it. Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
What happens to a bad airplane joke? It never lands.
Ooh, I like that one.
This next one's really bad. What did the kamikaze pilot say to his students? He
Nothing.
said, I'm only going to demonstrate this once, so pay attention.
That's good. I like that. I've done that before. Where I smash a plane to the ground. Like, this is going to be a great landing. Let me show you how to do it. Smash!
They say everybody at least forgets to put the landing gear down once.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. I hope not.
Nice.
I almost did it though.
Oops.
I almost did it once. It's when you're really tired. And we have a landing gear horn.
All right, Berto, you want to say the first pickup line?
Are you ready for the pickup line? Just in case the I'm a pilot and aerospace engineer doesn't work.
Yep.
Okay, are you a VFR? Because I'm saying 10-10. Or
Ooh.
10 out of 10.
I can see that. My visibility is 10 miles.
Want to see my cockpit?
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It probably gets slapped a couple times, but I think it'll work 1 out of 10 times.
Have you done that?
Oh, yeah.
Have you done that before where you say you ask a girl out on a date?
Oh, yeah.
Your plane?
I was in Kwajalein in the middle of the Pacific. And so we break there. We had a big hydraulic failure there, and we land there. It's an atoll in the middle of the Pacific. And we land there, and we're just sitting there drinking at these bars. We felt like a B-17 or B-24 pilot just trying to make it home. And I had this pretty girl there, and I said, hey, do you want to go? I have a surprise for you. So I had these 2 bicycles because it's the only way to get around the island. It's 2 square miles. It's real tiny. And I was like, hey, you want to have a surprise for you? So I took her up to the cockpit and took her up to the top and laid a blanket down, and we watched the stars together. And we made a lot of love that day, guys. That night.
There might be Kyles out there, little Kyles out there in the world, huh?
Oh yeah, I get phone calls from a Filipino area code every Father's Day, but I just don't pick those up. You're not gonna upload this one, are you?
No, we are.
No, it's all going up.
You're good. Berto, you got the next one.
Yeah. Did you invent the airplane? Because you seem right to me.
I wouldn't use that one.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
So here's another.
I don't think most women would know that one.
Yeah. This one
who
is
the hell is right? Actually, I put women down again. God damn it.
The one that does know is probably the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Bingo.
Yeah, there we go.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah. So this other one, Kyle, is you would go up to the girl and say, "Hey, girl, are you a Class C? Because I'd like to enter your airspace."
Ooh, that's pretty good.
I think she would have to be a
most
pilot.
Most of the time,
girl.
I just blast through those anyways. Airspace.
Yeah.
The airspace.
Yeah.
What's up? I'm a pilot. I'll give you the ride of your life, and then we'll go flying. Sorry, completely misread that one. But yeah.
I will say, you want to know what I will say? All these pickup lines are great. Like, I think women like pilots, but every time I take them up, they're miserable. Most, not just women, but like my male passengers, like I'll take them up, they're miserable. People would rather go sailing. So that's why I bought a sailboat and sold my airplane. Most people didn't want to go flying with me. Not because I'm a shitty pilot and I've crashed a few times. But there was a few crashes.
Yeah. So got one more. The last one is you would go up to a girl and say, "Girl, are you my gear lever? Because you're making me extend."
Ooh. Okay.
Again, I think the girl would have to have like some sense of like piloting or airplanes or just.
No, I think she'll get that one.
I think the women that you find in like the aviation industry are just like, they're tough. They're tough chicks, and they're usually very, very fun to be around. So when you do that, you're in. You drop some of those liners, and you're in.
So what do you rate our pickup lines and jokes? If you were to rate them from 0 to 10, 10 being the best.
I'm gonna give you a 7 or an 8. There are a couple of good ones in there, a couple bad. I don't have any good ones. I walk up and actually I don't tell them I'm a pilot. I tell them I'm an engineer first.
Ah, yeah.
And then my friend comes in and says, "You know he's a pilot?" And they're like, "You're a pilot too?" And I'm like, "Oh, ladies, sorry, I don't like to tell people that." And they're like, "Oh wait, you're a douchebag." And you're like, "Damn it, damn it! You didn't ask me the Top Gun question."
Oh, we didn't. Berto, ask the question.
What's the top question?
It's at the very top.
Sorry?
Yeah. You want me to ask it?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the question is, was Top Gun the source of inspiration for you becoming a pilot?
I'm an Air Force pilot, not a Navy pilot. Sorry, naval aviator.
Is there like a rivalry between like Navy, Air Force, and?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like they call themselves aviators because they're better than pilots, I guess. But no, like so. In fact, like I'm on the hiring board for our unit, and when we ask them that question sometimes. We're like, hey, you know, what's your favorite aviation movie? If they say Top Gun, I rip off their resume. And I say, because it's a phenomenal movie, and I can't wait for Top Gun 2 to be filmed. Actually, our unit helped film it, and then it was filmed in on North Island. A lot of it was. My buddy is the one that's racing him on the motorcycle. He's the one doing the touch and go on the F-18. He's a good buddy of mine, and we every time we ask him that, they're like, "Well, it was Top Gun." We're like, "Oh, you could at least lie to us. You could have said Con Air."
So what's the right answer? Is it Con Air?
Well, it's just not Top Gun. Don't get anything Top Gun.
So they're better off just saying, "Oh, I don't really like movies," than saying Top Gun.
Oh no, they're not getting hired then either. And we want them to think on their feet. So if they said something like "Catch Me If You Can," or he's like a old airline pilot, or he's a young airline pilot, just robbing the world, like
Catch Me If You Can. You know, that movie's so long.
Yeah,
It's like a 3-hour movie, dude. It's a
Movie.
That's a good movie. That's a good movie. But yeah,
Oh,
that's
great.
yep.
Nice.
Yeah, they're not getting hired if they say Top Gun in this.
Well, that's good for everyone out there who's trying to.
For our 3 million listeners, probably 4 million by now.
Yeah, 4 million.
Oh, dude, you show this one, bro. Either I'm going to jail for some of the stuff I've said, or you guys are going to the roof.
Oh, and
No,
by
we
the way,
can-
so we gotta take a moment to make the commercial break. So Berto, would you like to talk about our advertisers?
I thought
We don't have it.
I thought we were demonetized.
Yeah, so yeah, we
You don't have any advertisers?
no, we don't. So we're doing this for free. Can you believe it?
They get Blanton's whiskey. It's really hard to get, and it's super expensive.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to open this bad boy, by the way.
I know we're
Yeah.
special. Yeah, for sure.
Is it pretty good?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna finish that bottle tonight.
Oh, no way. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, I'm a pilot, baby. You don't open bourbon and not finish it. No, I'm gonna get hammered tonight. Taking tomorrow off.
Nice.
I was supposed to play volleyball in the morning, but it's not gonna happen.
Mhm. Oh, sweet.
That's basically it.
So if you get a phone call right now, are you gonna plane up to Reno to go pick up the bird, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's normally a lot of times it's like last minute, like especially like the hurricane mission type stuff. Like when remember those three, was it Maria, Irma, and RV? They'd call us up. They called me up and they're like, hey, actually I called them. I said, hey, if there's a mission, I want in. And they're like, can you leave tomorrow? I'm like, boom. I was on that next flight up to Reno, and the next and we were gone. I was gone for a month. We were in like Puerto Rico, took some stuff to Honduras, Guadalupe. We were in Cuba, and we basically went all the way around the Gulf. It was rad. Yeah, I get a lot of last minute phone calls where like, hey, when North Korea was getting ready to go, you know, and people were getting worried. They're like, hey, we need a crew. We need it now. And I'm like, I'm in. I can go to Korea.
Yeah.
I could pop. So yeah, it's a lot of last minute stuff. The firefighting stuff is last minute. Hey, this fire just popped off. The Forest Service is asking for our help. You in? I'm like, yep, I'm in. They're like, we need you in Colorado tonight. Or,
Do you do that the whole Rick and Morty? You son of a bitch! I'm in.
You son of a bitch! I'm in. I just watched that last night.
That's the best episode I've seen.
You son of a bitch! I'm in. I just watched
great.
that one last night.
Okay. So I guess this concludes our interview with you, our joke segment. So before we leave, we want to thank you, Kyle, for being a good pal and going through these questions with us and giving everybody out there a sense of what it is like being a pilot and what it takes.
Yeah, what it takes to get there, and you know your particular journey. So
Yeah,
And-
if you want to put my email and contact info on that.
Well, I think
I've
what we'll
been-
do to keep the weirdos away, since we put this on YouTube, people
Oh
can
yeah.
go out there and put in the comments, ask questions, and we can reply that way.
Well,
And,
I've been mentoring a lot of folks to
okay.
go get their wings, you know, because a lot of
Awesome.
people help me in my journey. So yeah, I'd help anybody who wants any input or anything like that. I'll definitely help them out
That's really nice of you.
if they're taking it seriously. I know if they're not, I've been doing this long enough. So.
Mhm. And the other thing is just some administrative stuff for everybody out there. Make sure to hit that like button, that notification bell, leave some good comments for us. We read through them all. And Berto, where can they follow us on social media?
we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Showtime Goones.
And
Yeah.
and with that, I guess that's the end of the podcast. Thanks again, Kyle.
All right, boys.